Increasing the lifespan of your well should be one of your top priorities. Calling Hydro Resources is the easy solution to do just that. Since the 1940s as Hinkle Drilling and 1999 as Hydro Resources, they have been providing groundwater service and solutions to ag producers, municipalities, and more. Whether it's well drilling and construction, pumping system design and installation, controls, pump services and maintenance, or well services and rehabilitation, Hydro Resources is the answer. Find out more information at hydroresources.com. With locations in Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas, they have a wide service area, so let them help you with your groundwater needs today.
Welcome to the Hydro Resources Community Brunch on Dry River Radio. Each week we visit a different community in southwest Kansas to see what they have going on. If you miss a part of the show, no problem. Visit our Facebook or YouTube pages or even our website at dryriverservices.com. Now for your Hydro Resources Community Brunch, here's your host, Joey Dean.
And welcome to your Hydro Resources Community Brunch. I'm Joey Dean, and joining us this week is former State Senator John Dahl. And John, it's been a while since you and I got to chat a little bit. Used to host your show on the former radio station I worked for, but it's great to have you here on this brand new radio station, Dry River Radio. It's great to have you.
Well, it's great to be with you again, Joey. I miss you, but this is great talking to you, and looking forward to seeing you more down the road.
Yeah, hopefully we can get something going. It's been a lot of fun doing this on my own, not having the overlords of terrestrial radio all over me, being my own boss. But it's also got its own challenges, as I'm sure you understand. So, but it's great to have you on. Congratulations in order for a second year in a row. That I texted you that the other day. Your Dodgers World Series champions again.
Yeah, and as you text, I think there was, sometimes to win it all, you have to be skillful, but there's got to be a lot of luck on the way. And I think this year, the Dodgers got real lucky in about a couple of those games. So, but I'll take it. At the end of the day, they got the trophy, and that's what all that matters.
Yeah, I'm still beside myself that Kinder Falafa didn't have a lead at third base when he was thrown out at home. I still can't believe that's just baseball fundamentals. So I was just in shock when that happened, and I wasn't surprised after that when the Dodgers ended up winning it. But it was a great World Series, and according to the numbers, it was a very well-watched World Series, too.
Yeah, and everybody I talk to, that are somewhat cool fans, or watch just now and then, but like my wife, she couldn't take her eyes off of it, and that made it easier for us both, because I don't like people bother me during games. I want silence, and she understands that, so she just goes to another room, and when something good happens, we meet in the hallway.
I like it. My wife watches with me and usually falls asleep about an inning or so in. So I do enjoy the silence as well, although it is interrupted occasionally with snoring. So, but I'll take that over getting in trouble, I guess. I don't know. I've dated women before that got mad because you're watching sporting events. So I will take her sleeping over that any day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way it's got to be. And are you the type that yells at the TV and such?
I used to be. I don't so much anymore. I'm a little more reserved now. It does depend on the situation, though. Like, if I'm watching, the NCAA tournament and Wichita State's in it or KU's in it, I'm a lot more vocal than, say, just a regular season game. Like I watched the Colts finally for the first time the other day when they lost to the Steelers, and I wasn't very loud at all. I was pretty quiet, even though they played horribly and deserved to be yelled at. I didn't yell at the Colts at all. So it just kind of depends on the situation, but I have been known to be pretty vocal.
Yeah, I see people do that, and I don't think they can hear you. But and like I had a guy explain it just makes you feel more like a fan if you yell
Right.
at the TV. I'm like, no, whatever, to each our own, right?
That's right. I did when KU beat Texas a few years ago in football. I did
Yeah,
run through the house like I was 6 years old again, arms stretched in the air, just screaming. I did do that. I will admit to that. And my wife just
yeah,
kind of
especially
chuckled at me.
yeah, especially when it was a small town guy that made the catch.
Yeah,
That
Jared
made it even
Casey. That's
better.
right. Little Kansas boy. That's right.
Yeah.
We're talking with former Senator John Dahl. So, John, you just recently finished your stint in the Kansas Senate. Tell us about that experience as a whole. You were a representative before that, but tell us about your time in Topeka.
It's frustrating at times. Well, it's frustrating most of the time, but it's exhilarating at the same time. You know that you are representing 73,000 people when you're in the Senate, and it's I get a lot of people that get angry with me at a vote, but I look at it. You can't lean right, you can't lean left. You got to vote for what's best for your district, and I felt like I was able to do that all the way through. There were some votes that I hated to take that I didn't feel was right in my own mind, my own values, but by far I felt like well over 60-70% of the my constituents would want it voted that way. So I would hold my nose and vote that way. But I wouldn't sleep at night. But then you get phone calls, people just, why did you vote that way? And when you tell them that this is what my district wants, and they said, well, that's not who you are. And I said, no, but that's who my district is. And trying to weigh those things out and trying to get people to understand it. I'm not really a politician at all. I try to be a policy dude, and I try to be a great representative for the district, for the people that I represented. And you're not going to hit 100% with anyone, but I really truly believe that I was able to vote for my district all the way through.
I always find it interesting. I'm neither Democrat or Republican. I actually registered as an independent. And, there's things that I lean blue on, things I lean red on. And, it baffles people. If you don't vote exactly what they want you to vote, then you're wrong. And I told somebody on Facebook the other day, I said, that goes against the founding principles of this country. If you want everybody to vote the exact same way as you, what's the point of having a democracy at all? There
Yeah.
should be disagreements. There should be, conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be you can be disagreeable, but you just can't be, to the point where your anger gets involved. And one of the things, Joy, that I've really don't miss at all is that I used to get, times I'd get 100, 200 emails a day, and now I don't get 100 emails in 2 months, and I enjoy that quite a lot. And so it's that part is refreshing. I don't do any social media. I don't, I just kind of decided to take a time out, and so I follow barely, but I still kind of keep track of what's going on because of the friends I talk to and such. But that's refreshing. Is that I just you make a vote, Joy, and sometimes people would just be, you wouldn't believe the things that I'd been called, and even besides my wife, what other people would call me. So
Yeah, it's definitely politics is definitely a different kind of circus, I guess. You get if you're in the public eye, period. You get that just as a musician and as a radio person. I've gotten that over the years. Not to that degree, though. Politics is another couple of levels up. Being in the public eye and finding the ire of a handful of people and everybody gets a little more courageous on the keyboard, right?
Yeah, the difference between being in the House and the Senate versus city government, I was in city government 6 years, is that on one-on-one action, personal action, you talk more policy people when you are at city level or county level, because you run into them at church, you run into them at the grocery store and everything else. Here they either call you or they email you, and you don't have they're not going to drive up to Topeka to get into your face. And so we would have those monthly get-togethers and those legislative forums, and so they would come and talk to you then, but those were an hour and a half. So, in city government, sometimes you'd get cornered and you couldn't get away. And it was just, that's one thing that was good. I mean, I'm 5 hours away from people yelling at me face to face. But in the same sense, people can be really brave and call you different things and do different things when they know that you're not going to see them face to face. Sometimes face to face, they're not going to call you the things that some people, but other people still can do that, I guess. But it's all good. It's all good. I felt honored to be able to represent the people that I was. I didn't, for state level and city level, I didn't lose an election, and I took out 2 incumbents, and so I felt that people were satisfied for the most part of what I was doing and how I was voting. So there's that. There's always going to be dissent, but that's okay.
We're talking with former Senator John Dahl here on your Hydro Resources Community Brunch. Was there anything, you've had a few months now to kind of chill and be a normal person for a little bit and reflect on what you've been able to accomplish? Is there anything you look back that you wish you could have accomplished that you didn't quite get done? Any bill that you were working? I know for a long time you were an advocate of Medicaid expansion. Anything like that you wish you could have helped push through?
I just can't understand how we can't pass Medicaid expansion. It just doesn't. If you understand it and look at the numbers, it is an absolute no-brainer. And I just can't conceive how anyone can see it differently. But they do, and they have their reasons, and I respect their reasons. But to me, it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. None, zero. And the other thing that really worries me is our funding. The other thing I thought that we did good, we passed a great transportation bill, so we can keep our infrastructure solid. Joe, I was considered a moderate, and I would talk to my conservative friends, and I was, I think I'm more conservative than you are. And they would just start laughing. And I says, what is conservative? And I said, to me, what conservative is, you make sure every penny is spent right, but you know that you have to have good infrastructure. You have to have a good educational system. You know that you have to have good medical, and insurance and that sort of thing. And I said, so being a conservative doesn't mean cut. What it means is that you get the most out of your money. And I think, to me, that's what a conservative is. But the conservatives today don't feel that way whatsoever. It's cut. And, we're into the red meat now. And I fear what's going to happen, especially to education in the next 5 years, is going to be a challenge. And it's what they want to do with the Supreme Court. That scares me a lot. They want to make it a popular vote. And the way that we choose Supreme Court justice now is a process. It just weeds out all the people that, that aren't qualified. And this Supreme Court, that's an independent thing. And so if we make it political, that means that maybe one, an aspect of the people, of that 35% of the people can control all 3 branches of government, because there's 70% of people ain't going to vote, 60% ain't going to vote, whatever it is. But that scares me a lot. But to say that, to be able to say that, I think and I would love to argue anybody with this, what a conservative truly is. And I felt like I was a conservative.
We're talking with former Senator John Dahl. So right now, the entire political landscape, both at the federal and state levels, even at some of the local levels, is just insane. I don't know if you saw the thing that's going on with the mayor in Coldwater, and they've had issues in the school board there in Coldwater, and city clerk, and all sorts of stuff. You've got Garden City, where you live, just passed a deal, which I think is a great thing, to build a new law enforcement center and jail there in Garden City and Finney County. But people are up in arms about that, and their taxes being raised and this and that. How do you navigate, or what's your outlook on just on the micro level? Finney County and the state of Kansas, where things stand politically, and what direction we're going?
Well, I think that we have what's going on as far as sales tax, especially in Garden City. It's a sales tax. It's not a bump on the property tax. And sales tax, everybody pays it. Everybody pays the same. If they don't want to pay the tax, don't buy anything. So we get help from people that come in. We have a lot of people from outside of the county, outside of the city, that come in and shop and pay these taxes. It's going to help pay for this law enforcement center and such. So I think sales tax is a fair tax. What drives me nuts, and I tried very hard, real hard. In fact, sometime we'll have to sit down and talk about this. I about pulled a thing to get property tax lowered. And when I talk to people, we talk about, they always want to say, cut taxes. And what they're talking about is income tax. Mm-hmm. And if you sit down and talk to people, the tax that hurts the people the most is property tax.
Right.
And sales tax. The income tax is, that's probably the most fair tax we have. And I hate paying it, like everybody else does. But, it takes money to run government. But sales tax, to me, is the most fair tax we have. And so the Garden City passing that was that I think, in my mind, was a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I can't stand property tax. I mean, I feel, especially, you buy something, you own it. I don't feel like you should have to keep paying the government to continue to own it. That always drives me crazy. Yeah. Same with, if you get an inheritance, getting taxed for that. It just those are the taxes that I think are unnecessary. I do understand that taxes are necessary to a certain extent, and I agree with you. I'm fine with a sales tax. I think Governor Kelly finally getting that through, where the sales tax on food was dropped to 0. I think that was fantastic. Yes. Because I don't think you should be charged extra for food, but on the same token, other things can be taxed on sales tax, and that's fine. But I'm with you. I'm not a fan of property tax at all, whatsoever. Speaking of Governor Kelly, she's kind of into it a little bit with Chris Kobach right now. You've been around both of them. Is it always contentious in Topeka, or is there times where everybody gets along?
Well, no, there's always contentions there, because it's you have some of the people that are really far left and some of the people that are very far right. I see Kelly kind of as a moderate, but Chris he's pretty far right, and a lot of Kansans are that way. I mean, he got elected, and he doesn't hide it whatsoever. What Chris tells you, this is what we're going to do. He doesn't joke. I mean, this is what he's going to do. And some of the things he's going to do, it's like Trump, he's going to do this. And by golly, he does it. And you just think, holy cow. And I don't, there's people that no matter what you vote, how you vote, there's going to be people that agree with you and disagree with you within the chamber itself. There's very seldom is there a 40-0 vote or a 125-0 vote, and those are just cupcake bills when it is. So there's always if it's a bill that deals with anything with money or anything like that deals with health care, it's going to be a very contentious bill, and there's going to be a lot of people mad at one another.
We're talking with former Senator John Dahl here on your Hydro Resources Community Brunch. I'm with you on a lot of things. We've had this conversation before about local government being more important than federal government. When you come down to it, your day-to-day life is dictated more by your city ordinances and your state and county than what it is affected by the federal government itself, and that's why elections like we just had on Tuesday, election days like that are so important. We elected a new mayor in Ingalls, for instance, new city council people, and it was kind of sad to see that 300 and some people in Ingalls are registered to vote and 84 showed up, which is just frustrating. But you talk to people and everybody looks at the federal elections, when you elect a president and those things, and that's the ones they go out and vote. But then they complain if their side loses, and especially with the electoral college, their frustrations of either not understanding the electoral college or arguing, land doesn't vote. And I don't know how many times I've talked to people. I've lived in Washington, D.C., and Oklahoma City, and Ingalls, Kansas, and uh, the priorities are far, far different in the big city than it is in the small town. Priorities in Topeka and Wichita are far different than what they are in western Kansas. And so I guess my question is, um, you know, how much more can be done to get people to get out and vote in these more local elections?
Well, a lot of times people don't want people to vote, because that way you don't get a true representative in the office. A lot of moderates, especially, will not vote in a primary. That's kind of known because there's a big push to have somebody run against Mann and Marshall, and the word is on the street, and everybody knows that's in the game that moderates don't vote in primaries for the most part, and so it's. But at the local level, I saw years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, that the mayor of Holcomb won with 8 votes. Oh my God, 8 votes! And what I'd tell Janet when I was mayor at Garden City, or when she was mayor at Garden City, I told her we could walk into the grocery store and ask pretty much anybody, "Hey, who's the mayor of Garden City?" In fact, I did this, Janet, to show her somebody who was a big community person, and I said, "Hey, who's mayor?" And he goes, "I don't know." And it's crazy that way. But if you ask who the president of the United States is, or somebody like that, they'll be able to tell you that, and they'll be able to tell you some of his, what their views are, what he's doing strong or what they don't like. But if you ask what the city council doing or city commission's doing, they don't know anything until you raise property taxes. Then they're all over it.
Yeah, it's baffling. It was really interesting here in Ingalls because the person who won our mayor, 38 votes is what she got, and she was a write-in. And one of my friends who I voted for got 35 votes. He lost by 3 votes. Uh, it's crazy to me that 84 people out of a town of 300 hit the polls, and that's a big deal in a small town like this, being the mayor, and especially a suburb of Garden City and Dodge City where Ingalls is located. There's a lot going on that will be dictated by a mayor, and people just don't
Yeah.
seem to understand that, I guess.
I grew up in Ingalls, and so I tell people of Ingalls, my old friends and such, Ingalls and Cimarron are sitting on a gold mine if they want it, because they're right in the middle of Dodge City and Garden City.
Right.
But they're not going to want, but I think a lot of people in those two communities like the small town atmosphere. If they're close enough to Garden or Dodge that they don't have to go through the growing pains of doing something with the infrastructure aspect. But if they wanted to pop, they could pop because, where they're located between the two, Dodge and Garden, and, liberals that they call it the Triangle in western Kansas. But the small towns, you would ask anybody who the mayor is in Ingalls, you could go outside of your house, probably across the street, and ask somebody, and they wouldn't even have any idea. And the election was yesterday or Tuesday.
Yeah, that's baffling to me. We're talking with former Senator John Dahl. So I'd mentioned the Electoral College. What are your thoughts on the Electoral College? Because I'm an advocate of kind of what they do in Nebraska, where they split it up. That makes sense to me for these areas like Kansas and Nebraska that you have the rural population that, like I said, it's completely different lifestyle, values, everything from Topeka and Wichita to even Garden City. It's a completely different world, and so having them all lumped together to me, doesn't make as much sense as splitting that up. And of course, Kansas just has it all lumped together. But there's every year that we have a presidential election, it doesn't matter which side it is that loses, starts complaining about the Electoral College, and Republicans have done it, Democrats have done it every single time. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, the electoral college, if you do population, voted population, the election would be controlled totally by the West Coast and the East Coast, because that's where all the population is. But the gerrymandering is where I think you're going with the four districts we have in Kansas. And what we did in 2020, we made Lawrence, Kansas is in the same district as we are in Garden City and you are in Ingalls. And that to me is just totally ridiculous. And it was a close vote, and they were on me pretty hard, wanting me to vote for that district map. And I said, there's no way. Tell me how Lawrence and Garden City are alike, and I'll be happy to vote for it. But now they want to change it again. They about had a special session, and they want to put part of Wyandotte County into the first district. And what they're trying to do is get Sharice Davis out. So the gerrymandering that goes on it's just not Kansas. Every state does it. But Trump, that's one of the things he wants to do real bad, is he wants to get the numbers are so close at both the Senate level and the Congress level, at the House level, at Washington, 3 or 4 people would make a big difference. And so that this gerrymandering, the special session I saw where the president of the Senate, wants this a major project is to change the congressional district map again, so they could cut some of Sharice's first district, because if we have so many Republicans in the first district, it would cut into the Democrat part, and they could put Wyandotte County in with Gray County. How are they alike? There's just no way. But that's where it's at. And it's just, to me, it's just frustrating. I just shake my head. Sometimes, Joe, I'm glad I'm getting to be really old. I'm in my fourth quarter probably, and because what's going on in this world is scary.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I look at, somebody had said the other day to me, actually it was yesterday, I had made that same comment about, splitting up the electoral votes, and they said, well, then you run into gerrymandering. And I said, we're running into it already. It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's going to try to manipulate the system anyway. I feel like there's ways to figure it out. Split Kansas in half 2 ways, and you got 4 quarters, and there you go. But
yeah. I'll tell you what, if what we did in 2020 wasn't gerrymandering, somebody needs some serious dose of knowledge, because you just look at that map and it is weird, and how they draw it out, and what they're wanting to do now is just absolutely asinine. I can't wait to get back and talk to my representatives and see how they're going to vote on that gerrymandering, because it's not good for Western Kansas whatsoever, not even a little bit. Because we're, like you said earlier, we're rural, so and it's one man, one vote. That's the 14th Amendment. That's you got to have that. But if they do that, that takes our vote away. It makes it more of a urban vote than a rural vote, and people just don't understand. They just want to do it because that's what the president wants, or that's what the president of the Senate wants, and that's what the governor's going to want. Not Kelly, but if Ty wins, and it's asinine.
Yeah, 100%. And people say land doesn't vote. Well, the people that work the land do. and they're way different opinions in everything versus the people that live, on Pawnee Street in Wichita. It's two completely different worlds.
Yes, and people don't that's the only representation that we have, and it's we get one, one congressman, one person from a rural area, and we're trying to bump that out. We're going to have a representative from Lawrence, Kansas, or from Wyandotte County that's going to win that vote, and then we won't have a representative. The closest one we'll have is in Wichita, and they really couldn't care less about what's going on in Greater Finney County. I'll tell you that. And it's just those kind of things I just don't understand. Don't understand for the life of me. But there's a lot of those things. Not sometime we'll sit down and I'll tell you how. When we had the special session my last year there, how the governor and I kind of had conflict, big conflict actually, and I about pulled off a pretty cool thing that would have cut our property tax. And now I was one of the 4 Republicans that were holding out, and everybody was after me. The Republicans were saying, it went through the House like 125-0, and there was 3 Republicans, Dennis Powell, Rob Olson, myself, that was held with Kelly's veto. And they all had their reason. I didn't tell anybody my reason, none. And then I go right after the session ended, and I knew a special session was coming. I met with the president of the Senate and told him, if you do this, this, and this, I'll vote with you. And he talked to some people, and that's it. I had it. And then the morning of the special session, the president of the Senate called me and he said, John, you just got your legs cut out from underneath you from the governor. And I was pissed. I was upset, excuse me. And it was crazy. But that's the game we play.
That it is. So we're talking with Senator John Dahl here on Hydro Resources Community Brunch. So now you're done with your politics and stuff. You've lived quite a life. You've been a teacher, a coach, city councilman, representative, senator. You've done a lot. What's the future look like for John Dahl? You going to write a book or something?
I'd like to. I've started several of them, but I've been approached people that had big money to run for that Congress, either against Marshall or Mann, and because they feel they're too far right. But I told them that I enjoy campaigning, but campaigning is a lot of work, and the what my wife goes through during those things, I can take it because I've been screamed at my whole life. I mean, I played sports, coaches yelled at me, and then I got into coaching, people yelled at me, and then I'm in politics, people yelled at me. So I don't even hurt no more. So right now I got a little bit of ground, and I just go out there and hang out, man. And right now I kind of enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show with us today, and we'll have to have you on again sometime soon. You've got baseball season's over, so I guess enjoy some football and some basketball. High school basketball's getting started here in a few weeks. So
yeah. If you ever need help on one of your broadcasts from basketball, we did it once. I had so much fun doing that. Give me a call.
I will. We've got some Ingles ones. It'd be fun to have you come down and do an Ingles game with me.
Yeah, that's whether maybe Ingles in Southgrave, because the coach of Southgrave is a dear friend of mine. I've coached against him.
I love Coach Applegate.
So, yeah, he's a great guy. So I would give him so much static, but that would be fun. He couldn't give it back to me.
He gives me a hard time every time we go down because for football he does they do the hospitality really well down there in the press box, and so he'll do his chili, or they'll do meatballs or chicken noodles or whatever, and he always gives me a hard time whenever we go down there about my weight and how much I eat and all of that. So
it's not like he's going to make any nutrition advertisements himself.
But yeah, I love Coach Applegate. He is a
yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for joining us, and you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, so stay in touch. Take care.
Will do. That is former Senator John Dahl here on Hydro Resources Community Brunch.
This has been the Hydro Resources Community Brunch on Dry River Radio. Join us next week to see what community we visit next. As always, you can catch up on episodes on our Facebook or YouTube pages or at dryriverservices.com.
Increasing the lifespan of your well should be one of your top priorities. Calling Hydro Resources is the easy solution to do just that. Since the 1940s as Hinkle Drilling and 1999 as Hydro Resources, they have been providing groundwater service and solutions to ag producers, municipalities, and more. Whether it's well drilling and construction, pumping system design and installation, controls, pump services and maintenance, or well services and rehabilitation, Hydro Resources is the answer. Find out more information at hydroresources.com. With locations in Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas, they have a wide service area, so let them help you with your groundwater needs today.